happy Friday. It is another Mavens of Manufacturing Day, and I'm super excited and happy and humbled that this is episode 200. Like, I cannot.
I was going to shoot off a confetti thing, but it didn't work out the way I wanted to. But
Oh,
200! Yeah!
So, I mean, it's only 11 o'clock here in the Midwest, but if you have a cocktail, feel free to open it up and drink it. I'm not going to judge you, even if you're not in the Midwest and you're somewhere. Yeah, I have water and coffee right now in my Tony Gunn cup. So Tony Gunn is one of my super good friends. So I got to shout out to him in the Tony Gunn podcast. Before we get started with Emily, and Emily, thank you so much for joining me on my 200th episode. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you, especially because I had no idea what GD&T stood for or what it meant. I'm sure I heard it along the many conversations that I've had with engineers, and it just didn't click with me. And I'm super excited to learn more about it and how you're making training easier. But I do want to let people know who are viewing, if you have any comments or questions for Emily, please feel free to drop them in the comment section. I'm all about having people engaged in our conversations, and I don't want to be the only one asking questions or saying things. So don't be shy. Feel free to drop them in the comments. Also, number two, I do want to shout out to Turtle Tech. They are a team here in Beloit, Wisconsin that I mentor, and they were at the first robotics state championship. And a lot of the stuff that they learned at IMTS last year, they actually incorporated into their robot, and it got them really far along that competition. And they were actually invited to a premier event. So part of that is they needed to raise $10,000 by April 30th. They actually just received a grant that covers half of that, but it's in contingency with if they can raise the other $5,000. So if you've seen my posts, you can check some of my past posts. There is a QR code. To make this really easy, I have over 12,000 followers on LinkedIn. So if you are a follower and you just donate $1, they will easily surpass that goal. So just $1. It's not that much. So I'll probably say more about that later on in the show, but let's get to Emily. Emily, how are you?
I'm excited. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
I'm honored to be your 200th guest. Thank you.
I didn't know that this was how it was going to pan out when we initially started talking, because I was just filling up my calendar. So I'm really happy that it did pan out this way. And I just love your energy and your vibe. And I think I complimented your backdrop before too, with all of your comic stuff back there. And I'm a huge comic nerd. So yeah, I'm super excited about this conversation. But Emily, let's get started with you. Can you give us a little background information? Because I messed up with the first post and called you an engineer, and you were like, I'm not an engineer. So my bad for making that mistake. But how did you get involved with the engineering and manufacturing sector, and how did that lead you to GD&T Basics?
Absolutely. And this is always a super fun story because like you and a lot of people on your show, it just kind of happened by accident, really. My path into the manufacturing industry wasn't something I ever anticipated in my life. Going through school, had a lot of challenges, in school, lots of some learning disabilities and things I had to struggle with. So the real focus was just graduating, just passing, right? I wasn't focused on like, what am I going to do when I grow up or anything like that. Getting into college, and I can't tell you how many times I changed what I wanted to do because I didn't know. Like my father-in-law, he knew he wanted to be an engineer when he was little, and I'm always so jealous of people like that. But I actually went to be an English teacher. That didn't work out for me. I worked in the banking industry for a while. That also didn't work out for me. And I actually started at GD&T Basics. So GD&T Basics was my first introduction into the manufacturing world, which is hilarious because GD&T is very complicated in the industry. So for me to start there, humbling. But I love it. It's for me. It's me. And I love it.
How did you find out about GD&T Basics?
Yeah. I was desperately trying to find a job that could satisfy my passions, right? And I was just looking and looking, and my sister-in-law sent me a post. It was like, hey, I went to college with this girl in like the tiniest college you could possibly imagine, on the border of like New York and Canada, and somehow they're still connected in Greenville, South Carolina. Nonetheless, so I applied for it just because sister-in-law sent it to me. I was like, that sounds nice. It's remote. It's close. Let's do it. And I got it. It just is starting in sales, right? So
Okay.
I had to learn the entire industry in and out, just
Yeah.
onboarding to be a salesperson.
See, and that's like, it's funny because you and I have had very similar pathways into this industry where I try to my hardest to avoid sales as much as possible because I just had this image of like those grungy sales car salesmen, and I'm like, that's nothing that I want to do. And that's completely off because there's not there are some people like that in the sector, but I've met a lot of great sales, especially sales engineers who are really about the solutions and helping make people's lives easier. And they know how to talk about the applications, and they're really great at their job. So it like has helped me have a better feeling when I hear that word sales, but I try to avoid it as much
Oh, and
as
I totally
possible.
get that. And like sales engineers, completely different world, right? Like
Oh
they
yeah.
are focused on the solution, whereas like you hear sales only and they're like, that make that money. That's all they care
Yeah.
about, right? And that's one of the things that I love so much about our organization is like I've really our owner, Tom, is really focused on, he hates salespeople too. You know, he's an engineer. He's like, you think about talking to a salesperson and it's like, I don't want to be bombarded. I don't want to be pushed into something. And that's not our thing, right?
Hmm.
All of our salespeople are non-salespeople that understand and won't like push you around or beat you up or anything.
But I think that's a good way to look at it too, because you keep the human side of things, I think, when you don't have that experience. So let's talk about that sort of onboarding process. Like, how were the first few months coming into this company, and what were some of the things that you were doing to make sure that you were retaining the information that was being taught to you so that you could become a great salesperson for this company? Like, what were some of the questions that you were asking, and how are you applying it to some of the conversations that you're having with some of the prospects that you're looking into, or even some of your customers that you have?
Absolutely. That was a very interesting onboarding process. Again, not knowing anything about the industry. So, first off, our company is very, very small. We are
Mm-hmm.
right now a team of 9. But when I was hired, I was the first hire of the company. So, it was
Mm-hmm.
just Tom, the owner, and his wife, Katie, just kicking ass and taking names. And they realized, oh, we need some help. So I came on as sales. So I was the first hire, the first person that Tom had to like train in the industry. But he was excellent. You know, like he started obviously because he built a company around teaching a very complex topic in an easy way. So I
Mm-hmm.
was learning for the best person possible to start with. But he had to teach me everything from the difference between the different departments, what design does, what production does, what inspection does, the whole life cycle of a part, to what kind of questions I'm going to be coming up to. We work with designers, production staff, and inspection. So I had to learn everything, like what CAD is, what different CAD softwares there are, what, you know, CMM is, and everything. But it was fun for me because it was extremely interesting. I've always
Yeah.
been a maker in some sorts, whether it's art or I crochet. I'm addicted to crocheting. I got a 3D printer. I dabble a little bit in wood stuff. You know, I love making things. So seeing it in like full production was just fascinating to me. And so podcasts, reading about things, um, just diving into that in, you know, my social media, the LinkedIn side of things, I just couldn't get enough. I just absorbed,
Yeah.
I was so excited to just absorb everything. So it was really easy to kind of onboard into it because it was fascinating to me, but
Mhm.
it was definitely
Well,
weird.
I definitely want to get into what GD&T is, because I, again, like when I first had a conversation with you, I'm like, wait, what is this? Like, why is it important? And Becca, Resnick, who is an amazing translator for engineering and manufacturing. She said she's excited about this because the courses are high on her to-do list, and she translates a lot of component and tooling drawings. So Becca, maybe you and Emily can have a conversation after this, and you can do some of the training and courses through their program that they have. But Emily, can you tell us, what GD&T is and how your company is really making the training easier and more comprehensible for anyone who's like an engineer in manufacturing and engineering, so that they can kind of fly. I don't want to say fly through it because that makes it like it's really simple and they're not going to run into any hurdles. But what's your unique proposition for value proposition for people?
Absolutely. So let's start with what GD&T is, because I get to ask that all the time. Family members, what's GD&T? And I say, oh, it stands for geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. And usually at that point, you got that face like,
they're like, what?
I'm like, it's okay. So the way that I like to explain it is, so your engineering drawing prints. It's a language that you put on there, right? You could use plus or minus coordinate dimensioning to say, hey, I need this part to be made this way or this hole to be this big, and I'm allowing this much, room for deviation. GD&T Basics is more of a honed in language, right? So it really focuses on the designer's intent and the functionality of the part. That I could go on for a very long time on like how GD&T is much better than coordinate dimensioning, but it really does. I mean, if the hardest part with it though is not understanding it. I think the worst thing that you could do, I'd much rather you not use GD&T than use it incorrectly, honestly.
Right. Because I mean, with these components, some of them, I mean, they're going on like modes of transportation, or and you don't want failure to happen because that could be catastrophic. And you said your boss's name is Tom, is that correct? Okay. So what sort of thing did he see missing then, where he's like, I have a better solution for this? Like, can you share that part of the story on how GD&T Basics came to fruition and what sort of problems that they were solving? Were they trying to help graduate, like students who are graduating college or students who are going through community college, really keep up to pace with what's happening in industry? Because that's a conversation where I'm hearing a lot of too, where like, some of these younger generations are coming in industry from an academic background, but they're sort of disconnected to what's actually happening on the shop floors and in industry. Is that something similar that Tom was seeing with GD&T?
Absolutely. So, and I actually love Tom's origin story, honestly. I'll make it really quick because I could go on for a while on it, but he had, his first big design engineer job. He actually got fired from it on his birthday. And he realized it was because he didn't learn the things he needed to through school, right? He graduated from college and he was like, I can do this. I'm going to do it. He got in there and he was like, well, I didn't learn that. But I learned perfect world examples through my academic education, and that's not the real world. So he fumbled a little bit, and that's where he realized, okay, there's some missing gaps here.
Mm-hmm.
I will say GD&T isn't even usually taught in school, which is a huge problem all on its own. It's a different soapbox. But when Tom got his new job, he's like, I can't make the same mistake. I need to make sure that I know this very complex topic that most people shy away from because it's so complex. And what he did is he built this notebook for himself to reference, and he kind of just wrote things down in his own interpretation of it. And it clicked for so many other people that people were taking his notebook from his desk, like, hey, you got the GD&T notebook that Tom Geis guy made. So he built it online for his coworkers. And that was the birth of GD&T Basics, honestly. It was just so well received by his coworkers. And he realized there were a lot of people reaching out to him saying, hey, somebody told me that we've got this great way of explaining GD&T in a way that makes sense. Can you help? And Next thing
Yeah.
you know, he's making his own business and killing
So
it.
are you guys working specifically with manufacturing companies and like going into their facilities and just setting up like a classroom setting and going over what he figured out? Or are you partnering with educational institutions? Are you working with high schools? Like what is your typical clientele for this type of program then?
All of the above.
Uh,
And I feel like that's one of the things that I kind of skipped over was how we kind of do things differently.
mhm,
But that is one of those things, right? So our customers could be individuals just wanting to learn it, right? Self-paced online, that's great for you. We also do custom company trainings where we could come to your facility, do it in person at your facility.
mhm,
You've got your own machines, everything like that. We can go up on the shop floor and do some real world,
mhm.
discussion. We can also do it virtually through, Zoom or um, Microsoft Teams. And then we also have public training as well. But we do work with academics. We have, some schools that we partner with that they use our online course as the curriculum to teach GD&T in school. Um, we do have a high school that we work with as well, but it's really, honestly, our focus is really on getting that information out there, accurate information out there. There's
Right.
there's lots of information about GD&T, but a lot of it has been people making it based on their interpretation, so it's not accurate. So you really want to make sure that whoever you're learning from, whether it's a coworker or somebody off YouTube, that they actually know what they're talking about. Right? There's a lot of misinterpretation being taught, and that's a really big hurdle to jump over. But by us doing company training, we customize it to what you guys need, right? GD&T, the context, the topic could be gigantic. We could talk for days and days and days on GD&T and issues and how to do it, but we only have a little bit of time, and time is money and
Yeah.
money is time. So we got to get all this information in this really, really short period of time. So we got to break it down into what's the 20% that's going to make the biggest difference for you. We really need to hone in on that, right?
I like that. We do have a couple comments. Molly Olson was like, CMM, computer measurement machine, are creating measurement miracles. I like that. Tim Drinkwater, a good understanding of GD&T is so important. And anyone tuning in, like if you have had experience with any sort of hurdles where people just don't get GD&T, like what are some of those stories of like some of the challenges or failures that come out of it? Like share your experiences in the comments if you want to. And then what's the best humorous version of what GD&T stands for? And Tim Drinkwater, greatly detailed and tedious, but totally worth it. And Molly, great drinks and treats. I've heard others that are less appropriate, but hilarious. You can put them in the comments for us to see them if you want. I just won't pull them up on screen so we can keep this kid friendly. I know a lot of kids aren't on LinkedIn, so if you want to just put them in the comments, I won't pull them up on screen, but we can look at it and laugh together. And anybody tuning in later can just have to go back to the comments. Um, but Emily, what sort of things can people expect then when you come into the facility? And start this course? Like what sort of things can they expect? What sort of ROI are you seeing in terms of them before and after taking your course?
That's an excellent question. The process really, and this is one of the things that I love so much about our organization, is that we care about you, right? You're our number one priority. So we want to make sure that we cater this training to meet all of your goals, your needs, while keeping in mind the things that are most important to you. We all know the usual, like time, money, quality, and you can't, if you dip in one, it may increase the other, but you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? So we have to figure out how to deliver this very complex training in a way that's easily understood, that you can apply to your everyday. It makes sense, but it's done quickly, efficiently. You can leave the training and start implementing things that are going to make a difference, and that's very, very challenging. So the the process when you work with us is very important. There's a lot of communication all the way from just reaching out with questions about how it works through the sales
Mm-hmm.
process, through the onboarding process. Then our trainers meet with you and have a pre-training consultation call. So the person that's actually going to be training you is talking with the people that are arranging this training, making sure that we customize the training to what's most important. We can utilize some of your drawings as examples within the training, really relate it to your everyday work. So they talk about that. We discuss what challenges, what are the things we can cut from the training that maybe you don't see or use often, because there's 14 GD&T symbols, 12 plus 2 that they got rid of in the last standard. But, not everybody uses all 14. So if you don't work with turning parts, then let's run out, right? It saves some time, allows us more time to cover those symbols you're working with more often. So we really want to get to know you, your company, what you do, what you make, your challenges, your relationships with vendors and customers, and how learning GD&T is going to affect them or your relationship with them. Is it going to improve it? Is it going to hinder it a little? How to work through that, all the way through training. And then the support kicks in, which I think is the number one thing that I love the most about our organization. Is GD&T is a very complex topic. I'm going to say that a lot. I say that a lot. You can't just go through training and we'll be like, all right, we trained you. Good luck. Bye.
Yeah.
We know that you're going to have more questions when you go back to work and start applying these things that you learned. So we put a big focus on the after training support. You get a direct line to our instructors for 3 months after the training. You get access to our online course, so you can go and just take the training all over again in the online version, or just watch the lessons that maybe you struggled with the most. We have webinars and a lot of other support and stuff, because that is one of the most important things. Is you can learn all these concepts in training, and then we ship you back off to your job. Well, we still want to be there to support you as you're trying to implement these things. And that's really, really important for us.
Tim said the biggest hurdle I notice is when adding min-max material condition to the call out.
Yeah. So yeah, when we're getting into the modification symbols, it can definitely add some complexity into some things. And again, I honestly think it really boils down to the same thing for everything. It's just misinterpretation of the concept itself. But we actually have a really good video that Molly, our trainer, did, I think, on max material condition and relating it to a donut. It just makes sense. It just clicks. So go check that out. Seriously, it's really good.
I have to get that link and include it in the file. But she said definitely one of those things that can be difficult to wrap your head around for many. I think the hardest part about MMC and LMC modifiers is that it seems really simplistic, but for some reason it goes against the grain of many people's thinking. And when it goes to implementation, our minds make it harder than it is. Sadly, for those that it doesn't come naturally to, they have to just practice.
Yes.
Interesting. So in your experience with GD&T and your observation and the things that the customers that you worked with, and knowing what's going on in our industry today. So we have a lot of workforce challenges and issues. And recently there was that announcement with the MEP, the National MEP program, which is the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which is just something I'm still trying to wrap my head around, because I don't think it's going to be helpful for some of the smaller to medium-sized shops that funding has got cut back. But how are programs like this really helping kind of resolve or lessen the impact of the workforce challenges that we're seeing in our sector? Because I feel like a lot of companies are struggling, and now with this recent announcement, I don't think things are going to get easier right away. I think we're going to still see some struggles, especially pulling in some of that next generation. So how are these types of programs really helping kind of soften that blow, or, resolve some of the issues that we're facing in the workforce?
Absolutely. And there are a lot of issues in the workforce that we're facing. Oh gosh. And it's a lot of the issues that we're facing, proper GD&T training can really solve those. And it really depends on your specific situation, right?
Mhm.
But I've seen proper GD&T training and implementation could solve scrap rates, rework, disputes between departments is the huge one, right? I can't tell you how many times I've just sat backwards, just popping the popcorn, watching the designer and the inspector just going at it. It's insane. But the knowledge gap is huge. The loss of tribal knowledge that's leaving, all these people retiring in masses and taking that knowledge and experience with them instead of documenting it or passing it on to other people. So all that to say, it also boils up to like how you were taught, right? A lot of people are taught
Yeah.
GD&T by their coworkers as they're onboarded, and who knows if that coworker even understands GD&T properly. And we've seen so many times where it's like, oh yeah, I've been working with GD&T for 20 plus years. I know how to use it. Okay, cool. Why don't you take one of our, quizzes just to test your knowledge? And then they fail and they're like, what? This
Yeah.
this isn't right. And it's like, because people think you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. But it really saddens me, the MEP thing, because we are actually partners with the South Carolina MEP company, and they really utilize us. They see that need for GD&T as well. So we've partnered
Mhm.
with them to, honestly, it's just, hey, can we use your facility to host some public training? And it's been great because
Right.
they have the need. They can blast it out to people that need it. It just adds more opportunities for people to actually get this extremely important training in order to do your job
Yeah. Well,
well.
and I'm still considering like those small to medium sized shops who they find value in these types of resources. So I think these conversations are important so we can keep that up. Someone's sharing a YouTube link. Ayush, awesome episode. Kim, maximum material condition and donuts. I'm loving this conversation around donuts. I'm highly interested. So there's the YouTube link. We're gonna watch that later after this episode. One of the things I want to talk to you about too, not just GD&T, because you mentioned something that you are going to be graduating from next week. I believe you said a week after this episode airs. So I'm really excited to talk about this because earlier in the conversation, you talked about, I feel like I was just listening to myself because it was like the exact same thing that I was doing in high school where I'm like, I don't know where I want to go. And then they were like, you're good at English, be a teacher. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So I just feel like we had a similar pathway. But there's an organization out there that I love to death because and I'm super proud of the organization because I think right now they currently stand with 33,000 members globally. They recently started adding international chapters, which is very exciting, but it's Women in Manufacturing. I've been a member of the organization for like the last 3 years. It's been a huge asset for me because there's local chapters and I'm between Wisconsin and Illinois. So sometimes I attend both events in each state, and it's just a great place to meet other women. And some have come in here by accident, some on purpose, and it's great to hear their stories. But you are taking part in their leadership
Management
women
development program.
management development program, and I want to know more about that. Like, how did you hear about this? What really inspired you to join this, and what are some of the key takeaways from this program that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a member of Women in Manufacturing, and I love them. So like, not only is it a great support for women in manufacturing,
Right.
but they really focus on like, let's do those education webinars of the things that most people struggle with. And I love their webinars. Let's just say it's probably the first webinar I've ever been into where we went into like a breakout room. It was
Mhm.
like they actually did smaller group activities to really like reinforce the things that we're talking about, which is what we do in our training. So I really, really love it. So I've loved their programs, and yes, my role, I'm director of business operations. But I never really had formal leadership training before. I've just kind of gone off of, okay, what were some managers I've had that really made a good difference and why? Do that. And what have been some managers that really suck? Don't do that. And that's taken me really far. But it can only take me so far. And I realized that I needed to be better. I needed to reach my higher potential for my team, for my company, and for myself. So I started looking into trainings. You know, Tom, the owner of our company, he's obviously, we have a training company. He's very passionate about doing that training, getting the support that you need to do your job better is very important culture for us. So I knew it wasn't going to be a problem. I knew I could ask for it. He'd be like, yes, absolutely, let's do it. But for some reason, there was this internal thing of, I gotta pay money for it. We're a small business. I know he's going to say yes to it. He's not going to turn me down, but I had the company's bottom line in mind. I don't know what it was, not much either, but I really wanted to do it. I saw that they had partnered with BSA to offer scholarships. So I was like, what the heck? You know, I'll submit a scholarship thing, just fingers crossed, maybe it'll happen. Well, it did. I was very surprised. I got this scholarship. I got accepted into the program. I wasn't expecting it. And I was so excited. And I have loved it so much. So much. I have learned so much from it. And I will say, Megan, I feel like a lot of the things that I've learned are things that you've had conversations about on your show. So you're having great conversations. Keep it up. I will tell you that.
Awesome.
Oh, yes. So, but some of the key takeaways I've come away from it is, you know, women are great at negotiating for other people, not for themselves. So it, you know, it's time to channel that power for ourselves, right? Right? Did that just blow your mind?
That just blew my mind because I'm thinking about all of the conversations that I've had that I negotiated for other people. And then when it comes to me, I'm like, yeah, sure, that works.
Yeah, shit. I know. There's been so many things have been this aha moment for me going through this. I mean, just leadership is more than telling somebody what to do and how to do it. It's
for sure.
It's that self-awareness, right? Knowing your strengths as a manager and then how to build upon those, but also knowing your team's communication styles and how you need to change the way you're talking to this person because this is how they accept feedback or critique the best, or they're motivated by a good team environment. So that's how you need to approach them versus this person's motivated by money. So this is how you need to approach it. Or, you know, it's just communication is key in every aspect of life, personal relationships, work relationships, partners, customers, sales, everything. Communication is it. So if you can really understand communication types and communication styles and how to communicate yourself, but also to the people you are communicating in, just makes a world of a difference. But
yeah. So can you give us a little bit more detail about the development program? Like how long is it? What sort of topics are you touching on in terms of women leadership? Because aside from the negotiation part, and before you start talking about that, there's a few comments that I want to pull up. I'm really enjoying this. Thank you, you guys. This has been awesome. So Tim, over tolerancing of standard dimensions to achieve a functional fit with proper understanding of part function and representation in GD&T, the part can actually get easier. Molly said the best thing about GD&T is that it is the only way to make sure that your part will work every time while allowing for the loosest tolerance possible. In short, GD&T allows for the worst part that will work every time. This is really interesting. Now when I get on airplanes or whatever, I'm just going to be thinking about GD&T and being like, I hope they knew this correct. took the words right out of my mouth. Lisa Jones said, "Amen, sister." And then Molly, what do you think makes our training or training trainers better than others out there?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Oh, it is experience, real world experience. Let's start. Okay. There is a lot of professors out there that teach GD&T and they've never gotten their hands dirty in a shop before. So like, how can you teach somebody real world application of something if you've never experienced it? All of our
Right.
trainers are senior level ASME GDTP certified, have to have years of actual industry experience, because when you're training, you're not just teaching them something, you need to be able to relate this to them, understand their experiences, and pull your experiences in, right? This has worked for me, or this is a challenge for me, or it and they're awesome and fun. That's the biggest thing, right? Again, GDT is complex, dry, boring, but if you approach it with a really exciting, fun, let me relate it to donuts. I mean, who
Yeah.
that's just, I mean, my favorite part of this job is making the memes that we make. Me and my team get together once a month. We pop out a bunch of memes, and it's just so much fun. You really got to bring fun,
Yeah.
engaging, entertaining stuff into something that's so dry.
Technical. Yeah. I feel like Molly also needs to come on Mavens later and talk about her position if she's up for it. So Molly, I'm calling out to you on public TV to
Molly,
come.
when she goes to trainings in person to people's facilities, she brings like candy with her. And
She just said that. She goes, and
uses
candy. Candy helps.
she uses it so many different ways, right? If you increased engagement, you got that answer right. Yay. You didn't get the answer right, but you spoke up and tried. Yay. You're falling asleep. Throw this at your head. Like it's just awesome. We have fun with it.
I love I love that. Well, let's get back to this development program. Like, how long has the program been? What are like the top topics or the your favorite topics, and how are you applying what you've learned so far to your current position?
Ooh, okay. All right. So the program is actually it's totally doable. It doesn't matter what role you're in or your schedule, it's totally doable. So we started in January. Today was actually our last day of class, and then we graduate on Thursday. But the way that they've kind of broken it up is, one week we might meet every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but it's only for an hour and a half in like the late.
Oh,
And then the next week, we might meet for just Thursday morning for an hour and a half. The next week, we have off. The next week, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, only for an hour. So it's broken up with spaces in between. But after every session, we fill out, our feedback form for ourselves.
hmm
What did you learn? So what? How is that applied to your job? Now what can you do now to start doing that? And we do that for every single topic that we talk about, which at the end has given me this easy access. Like, this is the most important things that I've learned, and the takeaways that I've taken from every single day. It's just been invaluable. But the things that we've talked about have been from negotiation. DISC has been a huge thing. So DISC is like your communication style. So learning more about different communication styles, how you interact with those different communication styles. You could either be direct, an analytical person, a social person, that kind of stuff. Clearly, I'm a social one. But it's just all like, how do you interact with all those different communication styles has been
yeah,
huge for me. But we've also learned time management, financial. Like, a lot of people aren't in the finance side of things, but you still need to be aware of, finance rules the world. So like, if your goals are tied to money, then you got to maybe figure out, okay, how can I break that away from that? But I mean, everything from the skills that you need to be a better person, the skills you need to be more self-aware, how to be more self-aware. Once you are self-aware, the things that you start realizing about yourself and learning what your strengths are and how you can use those strengths to better other people.
I really like that. And that's so refreshing to hear because some of the conversations that I've had with women before is they were like, there wasn't really any invitation in my company. And they were like, this wasn't done maliciously. It just wasn't thought of to invite me to certain things outside of company business where those types of conversations were happening between the guys. So, like, the guys would either go golfing together or they would go to a bar together. And they generally have those business conversations about how the company is run, what the goals and objectives are, what the 5-year plan is. And there was just this assumption, whether the woman was a parent or not, or whatever, they didn't want to join in on those conversations. And I get that not everybody plays golf or whatever. So some people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But they're like, those are usually the places those types of conversations happen because it's downtime. It's not during work hours where you're worried about work stuff during work hours. And I just thought that was an interesting insight from certain people where women aren't really invited to those types of conversations. So if we can start being more intentional and including them so that they can understand the ins and outs of the business, they can start learning about the financial stuff and how it applies to the goals and objectives. I think we'll see a lot more women climbing up that ladder, which is really exciting for me because I'm competitive and I'm like, we need more women leaders. And I'm not sorry for that. I'm competitive. So
Well, one of actually in the training, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, our guest speaker actually told us a fact. She said, 40% of women in the industry are like college educated in the manufacturing industry, 40%, right? But out of that 40%, only 8% are women CEOs in Fortune 500 companies.
that's crazy to me. That's weird. It's weird. I don't understand. Like, there's this thing called the broken rung theory too. Like, if women miss that first opportunity to get promoted into a management type position, it usually takes them longer than their male counterparts to climb up the ladder as quickly as men do. So it's like, okay, let's change that. Let's have conversations around it. Molly said, what is the number one thing that you've learned through your training you would want to share with women or anyone in general? I love that Molly's coming with these questions. She's
Hitting me
putting
with
you on
the
the
hard ones, man.
spot.
There is happiness out there. Okay. If you are not happy in your job, please do something about it. You don't have to hate every day you wake up because you don't want to go to work because you hate your job. Like, there's happiness out there, and mindset is everything. You got to approach your work with intention, right? Not dread. But I feel like women in the industry feel like their place is this big and they need to find it somewhere, right? But their place in the industry is actually this big. You gotta just find it. You can find it, I promise you.
What I think there's an assumption too that we can't use our voices. Like, we've made ourselves believe that we can't speak up or speak out, and that's not the case at all. And I've had really great mentors where they were like, why are you not saying anything? Like, just, you're really direct and you're not being direct. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not saying anything. So I think what your point about mindset, that's a big thing to keep in mind, that you can do anything. So positive affirmations are very important.
Yes. And absolutely. And I think honestly, that's one of the reasons why I love this industry so much and I thrive so much, is because, let's be honest, I can be a little rough around the edges. There's no filter here. I'm very outgoing. I put everything out on the table.
Molly said you can handle it.
Thanks. I am very rough around the edges. So, and like, honestly, the industry that fits for me, right?
Yeah.
I will voice my opinion. I'm not the kind of one that will sit in the corner and let some things happen that I don't agree with. So I think that's one of the reasons why I've excelled so much. Honestly, that could be said for my previous job in the banking industry. That's also a male dominated industry. But
Mhm.
again, I have no shame usually. So like, I have no problem saying, I don't really agree with that, and this is why, and having a conversation about it, educate me if I'm misinterpreting it. But
Mhm.
I have no problem using my voice. And I think that's something that women in the industry really need to get better at, is using your voice. What you have to say is important. Even if you're wrong, don't be afraid about being wrong. That's fine. Everybody is wrong at some point in time. You just have to approach it in, well, I don't agree with that, and this is why. So if I'm misinterpreting it, please educate me, let me know how I'm misinterpreting it so that I know, going forward. But I think a lot of people are afraid to speak up because they're afraid of being seen as dumb, or, like, go for it, dude. Shoot your shot. Shoot it. Like, why not? What's the worst thing that could happen
Yeah.
from you speaking your opinion? What is the worst thing that could happen? Nobody's going to
I
die.
yeah. I've actually had that conversation with two young engineers. They were talking about how when they were going through their engineering courses, they were one of few or the only one. And they said it was really hard being in the classes because, one, all of the guys had some sort of coding experience or whatever as we were going through our software classes, because they did it in their downtime. It was like a hobby for them, where we never even tried it. This was the first time we're actually being introduced to it. And so we were afraid to ask questions, because if we did ask a dumb question, we didn't want the rest of the class to like judge women going forward because we
Mhm.
asked the dumb question as the girl. And I'm like, I can see how that can kind of, yeah, affect you being quiet and not speaking up, because you want to appear that you're on the same level as everyone else, because you don't want to be less experienced in that type of situation. You want to be able, and they said it was really hard too sometimes because the professor wasn't a woman, and they didn't feel like very well connected with the professor because of that. And I was like, yeah, that can be really challenging. But then I met some other women engineers where they're like, no, I'm really petty and I like it when people tell me I can't do something, because then I can do it and I'm going to show you that I do it.
Yes,
So
makes me
I've
want to do it
seen,
more.
yeah, I've seen both sides of it, and it's just hilarious. Someone's trying to pitch me something in the comments, and I'm going to ignore that because that's just rude. Don't do
So
that.
rude.
Um, so for advice and action steps moving forward, how in your experience with working with GD&T, and then your experience with the Women in Manufacturing uh, development program, what would you say are the best ways to build leadership skills in manufacturing, especially for women?
That's a good one. Communication is key, honestly. Manufacturing has enough complexity in it on its own. We really need to bring that human element back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it and also, leadership isn't all about having all the right answers, too, right? It's about self-awareness. It's about asking your team what they need or want less of, so that you can ask for the feedback and then do something with it.
Yeah.
Is huge. But building that leadership in the manufacturing industry, I think, it's getting better, I think, because communication has become more of like, yes, we do need that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk about your feelings. That's slowly being phased out. Thank God. Like, it's not
Yeah.
about do this and do it this way. It's, what tools do you need from me to do your best job? You're not telling people what to do. You're trying to get them excited about doing what they're doing. You're trying to encourage them. You're trying to build other people and their skills to get where they want to be, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's very important. I think, you lead people, not projects.
Yeah. Well, and it's been proven time and time again that the happiest employers are the most productive, which is just
Yeah.
better for everybody's bottom line. Molly Olson said the only dumb question is one that isn't asked. 100% agree. And then Tim goes, great episode. Thank you for the insights that were shared. Really enjoyed it. Also, great memes over at GD&T Basics Engineer Essentials. I'm going to have to look that up.
You got to check it out.
Well,
So much fun.
Emily, as we're closing up here, any final advice or tips for engineers, ops pros, or future mavens? And if you had one question for our audience, what would that be?
Okay. Tips. Again, if you're not happy, we got to get you happy. Everybody deserves to be happy. I feel like there's a lot of women in the industry who have a job that they're not happy in, and they're afraid to go somewhere else or look somewhere else because it's going to be the same everywhere. That is not true. I want you to be happy. Everybody deserves happiness. Also, don't be afraid to say no. That's a huge one.
I had to learn that one for sure.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to say no to new things because your plate is full. No to things that you could do quickly and efficiently, but you should really encourage other people to do that so that they can grow. And embrace your weird. Honestly, own it. Be yourself. It's super important.
I love that. Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining me on my 200th episode. I really had fun with this conversation. I'm going to keep an eye out on you guys because I think you're doing amazing things, and I seriously think it's going to help our industry. So to anyone who might have questions for you or wants to connect with GD&T Basics, what is the easiest way for them to connect with you and ask you any types of questions? Where should they go?
Absolutely. So I hate social media, but I am on LinkedIn. So you can find me there. I'm happy to talk. But you can also visit our website. So it's GD and spelled out ANDT basics.com, GD&TBasics.com. We have so much free resources on our website. So even if you're brand new to GD&T, just utilize the website as a resource. We have a symbols guide that really helps you understand things. It's really about getting that accurate information out there to help the industry as a whole. But then we also have those more in-depth training if you need specific honed in team training, company-wide training, that kind of stuff. But lots of free resources on the website because it's all about educating the industry.
I love that. That's really cool. I'll make sure to include that in the article that I'm behind on my article. So next week you guys are getting a lot of reading materials. But I'll include that with the follow-up article. Jill said, congrats on the 200th episode. Thank you so much, Jill. I appreciate that. Well, you guys heard it here. Make sure to connect with Emily. Also, please, if you missed the beginning of the episode, I am on a mission to help the Turtle Tech team, who I mentor here in Beloit, Wisconsin, reach their fundraising goals so that they can go to a premier event. So I will definitely reshare that QR code after this episode. But they are almost there. They just got a grant for half of that, contingent on them raising the second half, and they have to do that by April 30th. So as I mentioned before, all of my followers just donate $1 and they will easily exceed that budget. Molly's saying, Megan, thank you for doing what you do. And also congrats on 200. Thank you so much. It's because I know Emily is brilliant and wonderful. She is very brilliant and wonderful. And we need to show more brilliant and wonderful women in this sector because we need them all. Awesome episode. Happy 200. Thank you, Kim. And then Tom, Emily had grown to be an amazing leader in our company, and it's because of our ambition that she makes us a better company every day. Tom, thank you for being a great ally to women in this space. Everybody be like Tom, please. That was awesome. Thank you. And the fact that he was like, yes, you can do this, and he invested in your continuous improvement. We need more of that. We need more of that. And then Lisa, Emily rules and is amazing to work with every single day. Girl, you are doing awesome. See?
I feel like
People
all 8
appreciate
people that work with me are on this. They're the only ones on this.
That's awesome, though. No, that's a great testimony for people who are looking in for training. So please connect with Emily. Next week, we have Joyce Sidopoulos from Mass Robotics. So the Robotics Summit and Expo is coming up in April, May. So at the end of April, first day of May. It's in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm super excited. Joyce has been on Mavens before. So if you want to catch up with her, please join us next week on Monday. I'm actually having 2 episodes next week, so I'm super excited about that. She's going to talk about what she's been up to since the last time I spoke with her, and then some of the things that we can expect from this year's Robotics Summit and Expo. So super excited about that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This means a lot to me. I never thought I was ever going to get to episode 200, but I'm very grateful that I did today. And Emily, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to share your story and share more about GD&T Basics. So have a great weekend, everybody. Take care of each other, and I will talk to you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
This episode of Mavens has been sponsored by Fresh Horizons Group. Fresh Horizons Group is a family-run company that was founded on the premise of helping organizations and businesses better tell their story through high-quality branded apparel and promotional items. Freshen up your brand by contacting Fresh Horizons today at freshhorizonsgroup.com.